Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So there I was, loving the simple things in life, watching my kids have a blast on a trampoline I'd set up in our backyard. The sound of my kids laughing and giggling filled the air, and it was music to my ears. My wife and I couldn't have been happier. Our little piece of paradise was just perfect. But I heard something one morning that made my heart sink. Instead of the normal sounds of the innocent fun, there was yelling and chaos. When I ran to the window, I was shocked to see more than 20 kids running around in our backyard. Some were jumping on a trampoline, and others were playing around in our pool. It looked like something from a crazy fair. My wife and I looked at each other with confusion before running outside to face the chaos. We looked around the yard for an adult among all this chaos. And that's when we saw her, Karen, the head of the HOA, standing near the gate and talking to two other women. I went up to Karen because I was both annoyed and interested. "Excuse me, but what's going on here?" Even though I was shocked, I tried to ask the question in a polite way. Karen looked at us and her face was as pure as you can get. "Oh, you must be the homeowners," she said with a wave. "We've chosen to have our play day today in your backyard. It's for the good of the area as a whole." My wife was shocked. "You can't just barge in without asking," she said that. One of the women with Karen said, "Well, we thought it would be better than having all those kids in the park making a mess." I didn't think what I was hearing was true, but it's our property, and we should have a say in who's allowed here, I said. Karen just gave a shrug and said, "Well, the HOA voted on it, and the majority always wins. Enjoy the spirit of the group." The three women turned their backs on us and went back to talking, which shocked us. I lost it. "Who gave you permission to do this on my property?" I yelled because, well, I was so angry. "Do not let anyone in without my permission. Get them out of here in 10 minutes or I'm going to call the police right now." Karen's face changed shape and she started calling me mean things like heartless and selfish, and her lies were practically never ending. I didn't wait around any longer. I got my phone out and called 911. And within minutes, the cops showed up and I told them what had happened. Right away, they started telling everyone to leave. When the police asked if I wanted to press charges, I didn't pause. I said, "Yes, very strongly." Karen broke the rules and I want to charge her. When I turned to Karen, I couldn't help but say, "Next time you break into my house, I will let my dog go after you. I'll make sure that he watches over the yard from now on." Karen was very angry. She couldn't believe someone had the guts to go against her as head of the HOA. But it was clear that she had gone too far this time, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. And this was just the very start of our fight with Karen. A few days after the fight with Karen, I woke up with an odd feeling that wouldn't just go away. There was something wrong. I looked out the window of my bedroom and saw my dog eating a big piece of meat. What's wrong? Well, he had not gotten it from me. I felt so scared, so I ran outside. When I got there, my dog had already eaten the strange meat. I thought it was odd, but I chose to let it go. But my happiness didn't last long. About 20 minutes later, I found my poor dog throwing up like no tomorrow. My wife and I took him to the vet as soon as we could. The vet worked fast to get our furry baby back to health, but it was clear that something was very wrong. After 45 long minutes, the vet came out of the exam room and asked us, "Did your dog eat anything strange today?" He might have been poisoned, I think. My heart dropped. I told the vet that I had seen him eat a lot of meat in the morning, but that I hadn't given it to him. "Well, you don't usually find big pieces of meat just lying around," the vet said with a serious look on his face. "Someone could have tried to kill your dog with poison. Have you thought of anyone?" I felt really angry and confused at the same time. Pieces of this crazy puzzle were starting to fit together, and it looked like Karen had done something horrible out of anger and a sense of entitlement. After a few scary hours at the vet, my dog was finally stable and on a way to get better. It was good to have him back home, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling of anger and betrayal. I knew I had to figure out what was going on. I looked at what my CCTV cameras had caught. It was as clear as day. Karen was wearing hats and sunglasses, and sneaking around my fence. She then threw a big piece of meat near my dog and quickly drove off in her car. I made a copy of the video and went straight to the police station. I told the police that Karen had tried to kill my dog, and the vet bills showed that my dog had been poisoned around the same time as the crime. The cops didn't wait around, they went to see Karen, and when she refused to go with them and work peacefully with them, they didn't think twice. In front of other people, they put her in handcuffs and made her walk away in shame. Karen was charged with major crimes like animal cruelty and poisoning animals, among other things. The court did not like what she did. She got a year in county jail and a hefty $20,000 fine for her crime. It was a good ending to a chapter of trouble and feeling like you deserve more. But I knew that Karen's actions had ruined our quiet neighborhood for good, and that her arrest wouldn't be enough to fix the damage she had done. My wife, Lena, loves to crochet and often makes handmade gifts for our friends and family. Whenever her second oldest brother got married, she crafted a beautiful shawl for the bride to wear in the evening. The bride adored it, and since then, Lena has been making shawls for every family member who gets married. Now, Lena's older brother, George, is getting married again. Lena doesn't have a good relationship with George because he treated her badly when they were kids. But when she has to see him, she's polite but keeps her distance. Lena doesn't want to cut off ties with the rest of her family just because of George. I work with George, and while we're not close friends, we get along well at work. Lena actually encouraged this, but when George was transferred to my team, I was considering asking for a transfer myself. I didn't want to expose Lena to George since our team often has gatherings with our significant others. Since George's upcoming wedding is a family affair, Lena's mom asked her to crochet a shawl for George's fiancé. Lena reluctantly agreed, and we planned that I would take this finished shawl to work and give it to George so Lena wouldn't have to see him. Earlier this week, the shawl was completed and I emailed George at work to let him know that I will bring it in today because the wedding was tomorrow. When I got to work this morning, I handed George the shawl and told him we were looking forward to the wedding. At lunchtime, Lena called me sounding upset. She explained that George's fiancé had called her saying she was no longer invited to the wedding. The reason? They claimed the wedding venue and reception place were too small for the number of guests, so they had to make cutbacks. However, I was still invited to the wedding. This made me pretty mad because it seemed like they had only invited Lena to get the shawl, which felt quite rude. If they had just asked Lena to make one, she probably would have done it. She loves crocheting. On my way out of work, I noticed George wasn't at his desk, but the shawl was there. I was still upset about how they had used Lena, so I impulsively put the shawl in my work bag, and I left a note on George's desk letting him know that since Lena was no longer invited, neither the shawl nor I will be attending the wedding. On my way home, I told Lena what I had done and suggested we go out together instead to make the most of our time without a sitter. Lena was upset that I had taken the shawl back, especially since it caused an uproar in her family group chat. People were calling her petty because I had taken it back. Lena wants me to return the shawl. I'm torn because I don't believe they deserved Lena's kindness after using her like this. However, I also don't want Lena to be upset with me over George and the shawl. So am I the jerk for taking it back? Edit. I've messaged the group chat explaining that I took the shawl, and if anyone should be angry, it should be me. I also mentioned that I'd do it again because no one should treat Lena poorly. And there was some comments on the post. Someone saying, "Not that jerk. You're actually the hero for standing up to this immature behavior from George and his fiancée on behalf of your wife. It's unbelievable that they decide to do a head count for the wedding just the day before it. I bet that if you'd informed them that you'd bring the shawl to the wedding, they wouldn't have uninvited Lena. There is a slight touch of insensitivity in taking this action without your wife's permission. But in my opinion, that's what made you the hero in this situation." Another commenter adds, "Not the jerk. Your wife is a people pleaser. Your brother-in-law did this to steal a shawl. Getting something through false pretense is stealing. From someone who was dismissed and used by my family, I applaud you for defending your wife." A third commenter goes with, "Listen, the uninviting is a greater offense and this family is whack. But as a crafter, I just want to caution OP against discarding the shawl or selling it without the wife's consent. I value my labor and work and will be devastated knowing something like that I worked hard on was lost or sold to a stranger. I would want it back to keep or give to someone else I actually like. And while I would like OP and would 1000% take it back after being uninvited, I don't think it's fair to strip the wife of agency in this situation. Whatever her reasons are, denying her wish that sister-in-law receive the shawl is wrong because she's an adult and should be allowed to make these decisions on her own. It's patronizing to force her hand, and her behavior isn't healthy either, and OP should keep standing up for her and encouraging her to go to therapy and to stop putting up with this abuse. But you don't just take away someone's rights because you think they are being a pushover. Not the jerk to OP because I don't think you should have to be complicit in your wife's unhealthy family dynamics, and you have every right to not want to deliver the shawl. But at this point, the right thing to do is give the shawl back to your wife and let her make her own decisions. Back in the day when smartphones weren't glued to our hands, life was simpler. The story which I'm about to share happened during that time when PCs and networks ruled our tech-savvy world. I had a friend named Bob. He was a master of all things IT, with a knack for computers and networks that left most people in awe. Bob was married to a woman, let's call her Sarah, and things were sailing smoothly in their relationship until a storm called suspicion hit their shores. It all began when one of Sarah's closest friends got caught cheating on her husband. In an attempt to escape the blame, this friend tried to throw Sarah under the bus as well. Bob, however, had no concrete proof to back up his wife, and so things settled down for a while. Fast forward nearly a year later, and Bob found himself once again in the eye of the storm. Sarah's behavior had taken a shady turn after attending her high school reunion. He confided in me about his concerns, and we spent countless hours discussing various scenarios. During one of these conversations, Bob made a joke in reference to a keylogger, but it didn't seem like he was entirely joking. Finally, he asked me to let the matter drop and emphasized, "Don't tell anyone, not even your wife." Several months went by and life continued as usual. I was up early one morning around 5:30 to 6, getting ready for work. As I was going about my morning routine, I received a Facebook Messenger notification. It was a message from Bob, but to my surprise, it was a group chat that included everyone we knew. Her family, his family, our friends, and even some strangers. My initial reaction was skepticism. It looked like a phishing link, even though it came from Bob, who was known for his extreme caution. A short while later, I received an email from Bob that contained some ominous and unsavory comments along with the same link. This email too was sent to a broad group of recipients, including Sarah's workplace, her family, her friends, Bob's family, and even some people I didn't recognize. With growing unease, I realized that this was not a hoax, so I cautiously opened the link. What I found on the other side was beyond belief. A hastily constructed website filled with pictures and videos of Sarah and another man. These were not hidden camera recordings but rather screenshots, including video screen captures spanning several weeks. Bob had captioned each piece of evidence with snarky comments and colorful names for Sarah and her lover. The sheer amount of evidence was embarrassing, to say the least. There were videos of Sarah engaging in intimate acts with her lover, chat logs detailing their eagerness to meet again, a solo video of her self-indulgence, numerous pictures, and even hurtful comments where she belittled Bob to her lover. It was a devastating blow to Bob, with Sarah attempting to stroke her lover's ego by comparing him favorably to her husband. I immediately dropped what I was doing and called Bob. He answered, sounding drunk and combative. He had been up all night creating the website and drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Every word he uttered about women was laced with bitterness. However, I knew that we needed to act swiftly to prevent this situation from causing irreparable damage to his marriage, their careers, and their children. After some persistence, I convinced Bob to take down the website. As he sobbed and logged in to remove the incriminating evidence, I could hear loud yelling in the background. Sarah had burst into the room, and a heated argument ensued. There was nothing I could do to intervene as a phone call abruptly ended, with Sarah screaming and Bob hurling accusations of infidelity. For the rest of the day, the website remained live, and Bob had even added a view counter to track the number of people who had witnessed Sarah's intimate moments with her former classmate. Bob had meticulously prepared for this moment. He had installed a keylogger on their computer, which recorded their entire screen. When he was away, Sarah would log in and communicate with her lover via Facebook and other means. Bob had not only discovered her lover but also uncovered a web of connections: his family, his wife's family, his job, and even more. All these individuals were included in the Facebook and email groups that received the shocking revelations. I had no knowledge of what became of Sarah's lover and his marriage, but I do know the aftermath that befell Bob's life. Sarah, desperate to make amends, offered everything she could think of. Bob, despite having his friends and family witness his wife's infidelity, contemplated taking her back, but he couldn't get past the comments about his masculinity. In the end, Bob made the painful decision to leave her. He gained around 100 pounds and eventually moved as far away as possible, severing most of his friendships and ties with his family. As for Sarah, she underwent some drastic changes as well. Her once attractive appearance transformed, and she acquired a reputation for her less and desirable behavior. The consequences of her actions had left their mark, and she was no longer the same person she had once been. The aftermath of the fateful day forever altered the lives of those involved. Bob, having lost faith in relationships, chose a path of isolation and bitterness. Sarah, once a trusted wife and friend, was left with the scars of her choices, and I, the unwilling witness to it all, could only reflect on how technology had both exposed and fractured the bonds of trust that held our world together. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.